Today comes to you from the stable of the Living Television, where we discuss topical issues as they affect our country and various states. Today is no exception. In today's Nigeria Today, we'll be looking at military attack on Niger Republic. It's a civil war against northern Nigeria. Military overthrows democratically elected government in Garbon. Senator Kwankwaso suspended by NNPP BOT Board of Trustees. Local government chairman accuses governor for withholding local government allocation. Southeast zone under siege. These and many more we'll be looking at today in Nigeria Today. And as usual, I have a wonderful analyst in the house who is not just an ordinary researcher, but a historian. And not just a historian, he is also a political affairs analyst and public affairs analyst as well, and who loves dealing with dates, numbers. And then, I am not talking about no other person but Comrade Nnamdi Elekwachi. Comrade, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a beautiful thing to be here always. Good day, our viewers. Welcome to Nigeria Today.
All right. Former Governor Nasri El-Rufai has issued a caution to President Bola Tinubu, saying that if ECOWAS troops engage in a military attack in Niger Republic, it could signify a declaration of a civil war against northern Nigeria. And before now, the president had written to the National Assembly asking for, declaration of war, which they turned down, and so many other Nigerians also have spoken against that. And then El-Rufai is coming up to say that any war against Niger Republic is a declaration of civil war against northern states in Nigeria, not just the Niger Republic.
Well, I understand. I think I understand what El-Rufai's comment was actually pointing to. I understand the whole dynamics of the north and then neighboring countries like Chad, Niger, and we've been talking about the porosity of the Nigerian border in those axes.
Yes.
Why there is this free movement of persons, goods, chattels, what have you, cross the border trade. Even marriages, even marriage alliances are happening there. Even cultural exchanges still happen there. But let me also say this. I think I've said it here before, but it's also important I say it. The place known today as Niger and Chad and some parts of northern Nigeria, especially the eastern part of northern Nigeria, that is the northeast.
The northeast, yes.
And then some part of Cameroon used to be Kanem-Borno Empire. And the capital then was somewhere in Borno State, in the present Borno State. Then that empire thrived. But before that empire was Kanem. I think Kanem covered these areas and up to some parts of Libya. So you see that these people, when we talk about how arms are smuggled through Libya, through the Libyan corridor to the Sahel and then Nigeria, and we are talking about what pre-existing routes that predated or that even existed before trans-Sahara trade. But the Nigerian government, I do not know our understanding of history, especially history of cultures. And I do say here that it took the Berlin Conference to now say these people who had been able to evolve administrative machineries, who had been able to evolve cultural patterns, who had been able to evolve a system of even administrating or even administering taxes rather, that they are no longer one people, that they are now Nigeria, Cameroon, Chad, and what have you. So the prayers of El-Rufai are that if you declare war on Nigerian junta, you are also declaring war, and it is true to a large extent. Why? Because today, even as we speak, there are Nigerians who are in Niger. Yes. And there are Nigerians who are also here. Even some of the shoemakers you see here parade the streets, some of them are coming from Niger. Yeah. They are not even from Nigeria. And then that war, to me, I think that war will actually expose Nigeria to a lot of harms, and I've talked about it. I did say that even as we speak, Niger is helping Nigeria. In fact, Niger and Nigeria are the only two West African countries coordinating the military joint task force in the Lake Chad Basin to fight against Boko Haram, ISWAP, other terrorist groups. You understand? So the North sees Niger as its backyard. There are men or women who are married to people in Nigeria, but are living in the other side. Understand? And they don't, and then a lot of facilities which the Nigerian state had are actually built, are being enjoyed by the both. And there are communities where, even in the Niger Republic, you buy things with naira, and they will give you change in naira. You will still buy things using the sefa, and they will still give you change. So I understand, and that was why I said, I asked that question, have we explored all channels, avenues, and media of diplomacy before mobilizing for war, or before this build-up, or before even Tinubu, who I said placed the cart before the horse? You have not even engaged the junta, accord them what we call in international prison. That is what we call de facto recognition. In as much as you do not recognize them as a government, but you enter into negotiations with them, including how to achieve truce, peace, if possible, return government to constitutional order. But all those things were not done. Tinubu had actually begun talking about war, and his last one of his last outings, he did say that there are sides to the conflict that were outside of ECOWAS, and that those sides were outside of their control. But he's been the one holding back those sides, and we are asking, who are these sides? Does it mean to say that the president of Nigeria, who is also the head of ECOWAS, or authority of heads of state and government, is now a pawn in the military gaming board of countries like France, America, Britain, and what have you? So I think what RFI said is something everybody should look into. This war, is it not going to be fratricidal to an extent when it finally is executed? So I think we should actually continue with the diplomacy, and we've seen even non-state actors come into play in what we call track 1.5 diplomacy, and we are also expecting that the regime actually comes to the table too, because the junta cannot actually live in isolation. No nation can survive in autarky. They also need to come to the table and then talk things out.
All right. A group of army officers in the Central African nation of Garbon say they have overthrown the government of President Ali Bongo. The officers announced the coup early Wednesday morning on national television channel Garbon 24, hours after the nation's election commission had announced that President Bongo had won for the third time in the last general election. Bongo first took office in 2009 after the death of his father, Omar Bongo, who had become president in 1967. We are talking about another coup d'etat here.
Yes.
And then juntas have taken over, in as much as we know that there is no justifiable reason for undemocratically elected a seizure of power by any unconstitutional means.
Yes.
Yes,
I think.
So what is it? What do you think is happening? This is still Africa, no Central Africa. It's
yes,
still Africa.
Yes, but I have to. But somehow I'm unable to.
Yes.
By marine coastal waters, I have to say this. You see, coups are unconstitutional. In fact, they represent unconstitutional change of government, and that is government by means other than constitution, which is unpopular and is not acceptable anyway. But it's unfortunate that weak leadership, corruption, electoral malfeasance, and poor and weak institutions are making coups d'etat, as they're happening in Africa now, more of an option, even beyond an option now, even desirable. So the question should be, what is making coup in Africa? Yes, thrive, or what is necessitating coup as a necessary change? That's the question, and I think this is a very fresh one, and I must commend Living TV for even talking about yes, it is still unfolding. We are all still watching. But it is unfortunate that in Africa we have what I call primogeniture. Primogeniture is simply when a son is from the father. Togo is like that, where after Gnasimbe Eyadema, Foro Eyadema is there. Sorry, Foro Gnasimbe is there. After Gnasimbe Eyadema, Foro the son is there now. You also have this Garbon. You also have Chad, where Idris Deby died and the son took over. Should I go ahead and mention? Do you know as we speak now, the president in Cameroon, Biya, is preparing the son to take over from him. So we have political dynasties they call democracy, and those things cannot work. You understand? They have become unpopular, and people have rejected them over time. And yes, now what is happening there is that this father you mentioned, the late father, Omar Bongo, was there since 1967 to 2009 and died. The young man came and became president. He won the first election. The second election he won, but it was actually mad and then fraught with irregularities amid outcries of hijack of electoral materials, even the process entirely. Now this man think that if this man got the National Assembly there or the legislatures there to effect a change in the constitution, they altered the constitution to give him a provision of death. He now had that access. This election was actually conducted. There were rumors that a lot actually happened that were unconstitutional, that were undemocratic, including censoring the press. Now this man, as we heard, shut down the internet space of his country, sacked foreign observers. And I did say it in one of my interventions. I did say that is invitation to coup. When you narrow all the democratic channels, you are just inviting coup. Because if the social media had been active, you understand, to an extent, there would have been a channel to announce that there is a purported coup or that there is a seeming coup. But unfortunately, he lost it. And now the military now effected the coup and now became the ones to announce their arrival on the scene. And it's happening in Africa. I was saying something about Emerson Mnangagwa of Zimbabwe. After his own election, in fact, we've seen a lot of outcries or uproars throughout that election. That he had been declared the winner with 52% of the vote. When even in Harare, opposition members were being chased out. We had violence, voter suppression, and the rest of them, just like it's happened here. So these are the tendencies in African leaders that invite coups when they happen. And it's unfortunate that AU, ECOWAS, SENSAT, South African Development Commission, the community, that's the SADC, the UMA, that is Union of Maghreb, the AMU, Arab Maghreb Union, and the rest of them, they have charters and protocols, even optional protocols, that say we deepen, we enshrine, we value democracy. But they do nothing when democracy is being undermined. For example, ECOWAS observed the election in Nigeria in 2023.
Yes.
But we all know that election was marred with irregularities. There were issues, reported cases of ethnic profiling. People were attacked because they were coming from a particular part of the country. In this case, the eastern part of the country, that's the southeast. There were incendiary attacks, coordinated attacks at marketplaces said to be belonging to particular people. There were also hate contents, in fact, hate-laden speeches, written contents and spoken words in the internet, and then on the internet and then the mainstream media. But the ECOWAS have not released any report to say we are condemning this or this happened, or to even acknowledge that they happened. What they have only is, I think, preliminary report. They have not been able to say this is what we observe. And I think until AU, ECOWAS, and all these communities, these regional blocks, begin to categorize democracy, and they tell Nigeria, by virtue of your election, you have fallen down to democracy level 10 or level 20. You understand what I'm saying now? And now saying you can no longer participate in maybe observing elections in other places. There are ways to actually bring about stronger institutions. But these institutions, they rely so much on the West. And that is what I actually explained the coup in Niger, where the regime, where the junta is saying that the ousted president, Bazoum, had a pro-West leaning. And then look at the complaints being made that the economies of these former colonies, where I talk about the East Africa, the ones in West Africa or Central Africa, that their economies are still tied to the apron strings of the former colonial masters, and that's the French authority. In most cases, their reserves are there, held in French bank and in Europe. So it's unfortunate. I think Africa should begin to look inward. Nothing justifies schools.
Okay.
Nothing makes them right. Nothing makes them righteous. But weak institutions, corruption, electoral malfeasance are invitation to, and it is happening. Africa must begin to learn the lessons.
All right. Now, in as much as we condemn in totality any form of brutal or military takeover, unconstitutional military takeover in Nigeria, do you think for a man to have been in power from 1967 to around 2009, only to hand over to the sword, so as if that's the only family in that land, do you think that is one of the reasons for these takeover?
Yes, it is, because although you can hardly adduce that to one thing alone, there are multiple factors to it. But I did say here that we are having more of political dynasties named democracy in Africa. And I did say here that in Togo, they've had similar experience. I mentioned even in Chad. That has been the standard in Africa. You remember also that when he was alive, Gaddafi, although we mourn his death, that it has actually created chaos and the instability, making Libya a failed state from what it actually used to be. That Gaddafi was not actually preparing one of the sons to also succeed him. Why will it be like that in Africa? And it's the mentality we are talking about now. And then you see, if someone had been there, this is about 53 years uninterrupted, and not that within the intervening years there were no elections. It's not about monarchy, where the king or the regent or the regent or anybody there can exercise power, maybe absolute power or constitutional monarchy. It depends on how the system is actually structured. That the person can be there until they die. No, this is democracy, where the father, you understand, where in most cases these leaders, and I will explain, will mutate, as in they will transmute, they will change, or they will transit from military to civilian. For example, the Yadima, from being a military to a civilian government. And then after only you win the election, they will suppress opposition, they will suppress the press, they will gag the press. You understand? They will endanger human rights. And at the end of the day, when coups happen, you begin to see citizens take to the street celebrating unconstitutional change of government, something that shouldn't be popular in the first place. So, Mr. Moketo, if institutions were strong, if the press were free, if the media were to actually work without being gagged or censored, if opposition parties were allowed to play, do you think the citizens of that country will go out, troop out in the street, waving their flags, singing freedom and chanting anti-colonial tirades against French authorities? No. It is simply because there is corruption in them, there is weakness in institutions. That is why they are feeling they are happy that freedom had come at last. Nobody, in fact, we even remember the case of Obasanjo, they botched the term agenda. So I think Africa should begin to look inward. There is no justification whatsoever.
Do you see what is happening? Do you see what is happening? Just the Niger, we are not through with Niger.
Yes,
and we are now talking about Garbon. Do you see any threat to nearby countries?
Yes, I see a threat. Yeah, and even to Nigeria. Let me even be more specific. You see, if you look at Nigeria now, the horn of Nigeria, the horn. When I mean the horn, I mean the top, the tip of, as in the topmost area of the northeast. There is a little arc there now. That is what I call the arc of. Now, what do I mean? Countries or of military regime. Countries like Niger and Chad are now effectively under military junta. They are under the military jackboots. Understand? Now, it's only we have not even know the fate of that country. And then, if you come down now, you see that Garbon had actually fallen. So it sends signal, it sends a strong message to neighboring countries, including Nigeria, including Benin Republic, including Ghana, including Cote d'Ivoire. I'm mentioning the West Africa now, including Liberia, including Sierra Leone, including all these other countries. That what is happening in Burkina Faso, what is happening in Mali, what is happening, because the message they are sending, mind you, when this thing happens, the other soldiers elsewhere can now begin to ask themselves, we have these guns, mind you, we have guns. Why can't we effect this change, this unnecessary change? Because to me it's unnecessary. So the country should begin to look inward and govern in accordance with the principles and values of democracy. That was why President Bola the first thing he did when he became the chairman of the ECOWAS heads of state and government, he went to Guinea-Bissau, where there was an attempt last year, mind you, to read Coups Africa. The riots are saying no longer we are upon coups that, and we no longer will entertain them enough. But hardly had they returned than it could happen in the neighboring Niger. So it speaks to something that the people themselves, why would people be happy in the way of military coup? Why would they bring out their flags? Why would they salute the junta? And why would they even volunteer to mobilize for war? I'm talking about even women saying they will join the war against the Nigerian government. Should ECOWAS mobilize? Should ECOWAS deploy? And the likelihood of ECOWAS deploying is more to be from Nigeria than anywhere.
Okay, now talking about we've had the EU report concerning the 2023
election. Yes,
and that of the ECOWAS.
Yeah.
Yet to, don't you think the chairman of the ECOWAS, incidentally, is the president of this country? Don't you think because of his position, it would be difficult for ECOWAS with any positive part of that election?
Yes, there may be some politics to it. You must remember that I did say yesterday in the system that Nigeria will now leading ECOWAS to war, including a president like Alassane Ouattara, who, like the ousted Ali Bongo in Garbon, effected a change in the constitution to be there for the third term after succeeding Lord Gbagbo. Now they are talking about going to war or to make war with Niger. But if you look at the internal issues in those countries, you see that people present on being pillar, and I will explain. He is the only president in India so far not scored 10% of the villas. That shows popularity. Now you see something about the two countries, Nigeria and Niger. So the fact there remains that yes, ECOWAS may not be able to do what is expected of it, even by its own observation, it feels that the election went to plan. It should also tender a final report, you understand? But ECOWAS has not been able to release the report, and it shows you something that ECOWAS is also weak in terms of participation. This is the same ECOWAS that will cut off ECOWAS cut of justice will actually hand down a judgment saying Nigeria will say no, we are abiding by it, citing its own sovereignty. You see now, but now Nigeria is ECOWAS to go and fight against popular regime. So to me, that is it's marks of hypocrisy.
All right, away from that, the Board of Trustees of the new Nigerian People's Party has suspended its presidential candidate in the February 25th presidential election, that is in the person of Senator Kwankwaso, for alleged anti-party activities. The BOT also suspended the National Working Committee of the party. Away from that, the chieftain of the new Nigerian People's Party in the person of Buba Galadima has described the suspension of Kwankwaso as not good jokes. Now, comrade, looking at this is a man who I would say was very consistent with the contest, the presidential contest, and then until, in fact, he fought to the final, to the end of, to a logical conclusion of that election. Yes. And then today, and if he was not found guilty of anti-party activities then, what do you think is the problem now?
There is something about internal democracy, especially party democracy. We've had to have conflict across all the political parties is happening in Labour Party, where you have Abure and the Williams, Papa Williams. We also have even in the PDP. Remember Wike and the PDP. Yeah. They are still there. Then even the APC too had a problem at the time. You remember how the former chairman was ousted? Remember that? Yeah. So internal party democracy has been a problem here from the get-go of this nation. But I want to say, I do not know the constitution of NNPP. You understand? It's the new Nigerian party. I do not know the constitution of that party. Yeah. Because from what has been happening elsewhere, the BOT does not have power to sack or to even talk about setting of a disciplinary committee. But these persons quoted a portion of their constitution. It's an internal thing. But what I'm saying is that this did not come from the National Working Committee. It did not come from the National Executive Council led by the chairman. You understand? And then it is come from the
Working Committee. Suspended.
Yes, they even suspended the National Committee. The National Working Committee. Thank you for even reminding me. They even suspended the National Working Committee. Now they consider themselves they are now sharing positions among themselves, and I don't know whether it's unfortunate or sad. They even met in Lagos. Yeah. The Kwankwaso group met in Abuja, and now also suspended for anti-party activity. Their grounds is that Kwankwaso had been holding talks with Tinubu, and it happened. Kwankwaso and Tinubu held talks where we heard that Kwankwaso was given the ministerial support, and the Kwankwaso had been talking and Peter will be over political alliance. But Kwankwaso proposed the party, whatever that party is, just like Peter will be and the Kwankwaso. The two of them, we gave them kudos here. And I was commenting in Living TV. We said in one of our interventions here, we said that these two political parties represent something. They knew normal in Nigeria, you understand? That represent something, that they represent a time when the political permutation and the political landscape was changing, where you have parties coming outside of the establishment. Kwankwaso used his Kwankwasia movement to build the structure that became the party we are talking about now. And brought people, even the Kano State, where he was able to win the governorship election, and won some members of the National Assembly too, mind you. Yeah. They all were actually centered around his personality. You understand? And his political stamina, being the Kwankwasia movement, which is popular in the north. So I think expelling him, I wouldn't know. Maybe it's a matter that will end in the court. Yes, 6 months suspension. Yes. Sorry. Yes. Thank you for the correction. Suspending him pending the findings and outcome of the disciplinary committee so established by this. I don't know whether this thing will end in the court or whether they will find a ways around this.
Okay, I will also want you to compare this, and then in fact, except for now, nobody has heard about Kwankwaso's anti-party activities as it concerns NNPP.
Yes.
Now compare it with the glaring position of Wike and the flagrant disobedient of, to the party's constitution.
Yes, I think Wike's position is clear, it's conspicuous, and it's as clear as day that Wike went anti-party. One, he had
has done nothing about it.
He even granted an interview where he said the purpose for the G5 was actually actualized. When he was asked, he said there was no state where the G5 governors held swear that PDP won an election, and that is true. Imagine what somebody said. At the point, he issued the executive order in the state to make sure that no political party places campaign poster, billboards, whatever. Yes, at designated places. That's number one. Then number two, we heard too that he shut or he stopped PDP from using a particular facility in the state or something similar to that. Then many things we heard about the meetings he had with Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now they are talking about somebody who had meeting with Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Tinubu visited him, and from what we later gathered, from what the grapevine said, the press, the traditional and the mainstream media said that they had an agreement and that Wike worked for Tinubu. There were other allegations, including videos and tapes that said Wike stormed the INEC office to actually achieve that. So even as we speak today, the River State result is still in contention. It's one of the things being disputed in the court by Peter Obi. And that even Premium Times did an investigative journalism. BBC also did independent research and said that Tinubu, who was declared winner in River State, may not have won, all things being equal. That Peter Obi had actually won the result. But then was so, and then at the end of the day, we saw that when Tinubu was to constitute his cabinet, he named Wike, who is still a member, and gave him a plum office of the Minister of FCT. So it is what it is. Wike's case is clear. Kwankwaso did not go against his party's interest during the election.
Yes.
He has only gone to alliance, maybe to talks that have not yet materialized.
Okay, sorry, before we go on break, now let's assume, before becoming a presidential candidate of the NNPP, I also want to believe that he was not enemies with either the presidential candidate of Labour Party or of the PDP. Yes. So what is wrong if they are even discussing on the way forward? Is that enough to constitute anti-party?
No, and I want to thank you for this question. You see, before the election, Kwankwaso was talking with Peter Obi for political alliance. The problem they had was who will be the presidential candidate. We remember, even Buba Galadima coming out to talk about it then, that Kwankwaso was more versed and more experienced and then politically advanced than Peter Obi then, and should be allowed to be the president or to be the candidate. Now, during the election too, we also heard rumors too that there were other talks between Kwankwaso and some other persons. So it is not today that Kwankwaso began talking with other people. And then remember also, and this is very important, that whatever talk Kwankwaso held with anybody was never against the party. It was how to make the party stronger. So Kwankwaso having talks with Tinubu and Peter Obi and Tiku, to me is not enough. And the question you asked, you said, how do you even ask it again? There was a question.
No, what is wrong? Even before the context, they may have been friends. So what is wrong?
Yes, and remember again that after the election, Kwankwaso made it clear that he was not going to court.
Yes.
And that could have been premise, or that could have been the grounds on which Tinubu invited him for talks. Unlike Atiku, who went to court. Unlike people who were, Kwankwaso even said his votes were transferred to the winner as declared by INEC, but that he will not go to court. So these people did not talk about it then as being an anti-party. So it is now. Kwankwaso even talked with, including Wike. He had a talk with Wike, mind you too, because at the point Wike, it seemed, became the beautiful bride, coveted by all the gladiators. So he had talked with everybody. So I wouldn't know why I haven't talked with but to bring about political alliances that can actually change the political mutation to his favor now became.
All right, I know between now and next week we are going to hear directly from Senator Rabi Kwankwaso. And on this note, we are going to go on a very short break. When we come back, Nigeria Today continues. Please don't go away. We still have some interesting topics to look at before we call it a day for today. So don't go away. Keep watching Living TV. We'll be back shortly. Wonderful Nigerians and our great viewers, I'm glad you're still there watching your favorite station and also your favorite program, Nigeria Today. Nigeria Today will look at issues and sundry issues as it concerns our nation and our various states. All right, moving forward, the indigenous people of Biafra IPOB yesterday accused the federal government of abandoning its case against its leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, hiding under a series of adjournments. The IPOB lamenting bitterly that there have been this idea of a series of adjournments just to ensure that Nnamdi Kanu's detention is elongated instead of facing it. Remember, before now, that the Court of Appeal, for that matter, had set this man free, discharged, and acquitted until the then Attorney General of the Federation now came up with something that has kept him there. And then they are saying this is a deliberate act.
Yes, I think it's not to be wished away, although I'm not here to preempt the court. Yes, only the court can actually decide when a matter will be ruled. But there is this saying that delayed justice, or that delayed judgment is denied justice. Okay. Delayed judgment could lead to denied justice. Yes, by the time you keep delaying, deferring, adjourning, and then putting off, to a great extent, the matter begins to lose interest or weight. And when a particular thing is ruled, it becomes binding. I think I've said here before, the pressure on the judiciary, for which Nigerians are saying now that they have their eyes on the judiciary. Myself, I have my eyes on the judiciary, including my ears too. Yes. To an extent, had been brought upon the judiciary by themselves. Never had I ever imagined that we will arrive at a point where the judiciary, especially the apex court, the Supreme Court, will hand out a judgment, and the party to the dispute will approach the court saying, revisit, review your judgment. And that is, I'm talking about the judgment in Imo State, where the fourth placed candidate was actually declared winner, given all the technicalities and circumstances surrounding that ruling, for which we heard that the American government restricted the judges.
One of the judges, yes.
Not one of them, all of them, those who were there, except those who voted. And then one, I think, Mweze, I think, who
yes,
just,
yes.
I think, yes, who just died or what? I think he voted no. He voted no during that judgment. Now, many of those judges, those judges who said yes, those who were in the panel and said yes, were restricted. We've had a system where following
only those of them that have applied for travel overseas.
Yes. You see, when they place this restriction, you may not know until you get to the embassy.
Right.
You understand? They don't make it open. As we speak today, there's also that story too, that belief that the Chief Justice of the Federation cannot go to the United States of America, and it's a bad one. It means that the judiciary must live up to the mandate of being the last of the common man. Nnamdi Kanu was intercepted somewhere in Kenya, and there was extra rendition. You understand? Yes. He was brought back here, and then that rendition had been questioned by the courts, saying, in the eyes of the law, Nnamdi Kanu should be in Kenya. He was not traveling on Nigerian passports. He was not coming to Nigeria, even if he might have had his problems with Nigeria. That is a forceful rendition. They brought him here and then began the trial. The trial, they said they are reopening the trial. He left, and then invasion of his house by the military. Now there is something to it. We must be careful the way we handle this issue. The United Nations, I think, reported either a United Nations rapporteur on illegal detention said Nnamdi Kanu is being unlawfully detained.
And at the point, they asked the Nigerians to
release him and pay. They even said release him and pay compensation. They awarded damages that ought to be paid, but the federal government chose to listen to it. Now, a competent court of jury, in fact, a court of the land, ruled that Nnamdi Kanu should be discharged and acquitted. Then, Attorney General then said he would be discharged but not acquitted. he could not even discharge him. They now approached the Supreme Court. For over a year now, or nearly a year now, the matter has been pending before the court. We don't even know where we are yet. Then again, you must also remember that there have been interventions by people, including those from outside Ali, who have been saying, release this man.
Sorry, comrade. Please, the phone line now is open 091-682-84994. I'll take it again, 091-682-84994. You can call us, tell us where you're calling us from, make your contributions or ask questions, if any.
So, at that level, you see that at every layer, in fact, at all the layers and tiers of diplomacy, now the kind of case is clear. As you get about it, Buhari promised to let the judiciary.
Yes,
when the judiciary decided, the same Buhari government said no, we don't want to go with this charge. We want to go with this charge. They won't even discharge him. Now, Bola Tinubu is the president. During the campaign, he talked about engaging the agitators. And
I was coming to
yes. Now he's become the president. What has happened? Has he talked about it? No, he's not even talked about it. It seemed the same thing is playing out. And we also received the news from Nnamdi Kanu that he would not beg the federal government to release him, being that he has done nothing. But the federal government has not been able to prove that Nnamdi Kanu did anything. And it's unfortunate. Yet they are still having human intention. So I think we've been, like I said yesterday in the sister program, the rule about disobedience ought to stop. The cries of IPOB, I think within the law, are also to be properly situated. That the federal government is trying to frustrate the young man Nnamdi Kanu. Remember, they will not give message to his doctors. They will not give message at the point they will give message to some of his family members.
Okay, before we round off on that one, do you think the southeastern governors, where Nnamdi Kanu belong to, and also the Ohanese Ndigbo, do you think they are doing the right thing concerning asking Mr. President, to let go? Mr. President had talked about that. He said as soon as he comes into power, he is going to look into this, but nothing has happened. Do you think the Ohanese, Nnamdi Kanu has said he's not going to beg for his freedom? Do you think these people, the governors and so on, and the people who are supposed to be part of it, just like in the case of Igbo?
Yes, yes, I was even talking to that. It's unfortunate. The Ohanese Ndigbo, which represents the apex social-cultural organ of Ndigbo. Even with the coming of Emmanuel Iwanyang, I had expected much that there would have been a robust conversation at the federal government level between these Ohanese Ndigbo and federal government.
Hello, Living Television. Sorry, we missed it.
So I was expecting that conversation to happen between Ohanese Ndigbo and the federal government. Last time they had a meeting in Abuja, and I think they were hosted by the governor of Imo State in his guest house in Abuja.
Yeah.
And I was wondering why outside Ali they deliberated and said they would meet the president or they would forwarding their position to him. Yeah. What has happened ever since then? Nothing. Has there been any follow-up? I can't tell. So I'm not a party to the whole deliberation. But conversation like this require bold statements being made. You understand now? Bold statements being made. I'm sorry to say, even
does it even call for? Is there need for apology?
There's no need for apology because the court has actually ruled, unless the Supreme Court now rules and finds and can one thing with evidences, hard evidences. We say okay, but now as it is now, what is being
talking about? Talking about the appeal court. Remember, it wasn't just the appeal court, the High Court, Federal High Court also.
In Umuahia. Yes, I'm aware. The Federal High Court in Umuahia had actually ruled before the appeal court ruled, and the United Nations, either a rapporteur or a group, the UN said so. I think ECOWAS actually now, and that's why I said at every tier of diplomacy, Nnamdi Kanu seemed to be having an edge in this matter against the federal government. What was he talking about? The right to self-determination is enshrined in international protocols, documents, protocols to do. So what Naga is saying is not to be founded. In fact, he said for the sake of marginalization and the political and the solutionality of the Nigerian government, do not allow us to go. I've heard people in the course of their interventions and analysis say, if you don't want to integrate them, someone said it on AIT the other day. I've heard it on many platforms. Said if you don't want to integrate them, if you don't want to give them a belonging, look at the ministerial slots that they are actually apportioned. President Tinubu had about 48 names. He could only give the Southeast 5. Yes, you are popular in the Southeast, but you are the president of the South of a region. You are the president of the the South 5, 1 or 2 were made junior ministers. You've given them 5. I think if you are to be fair, all the 5 should be senior ministers. But Nkiru Onyejuocha is a minister of state for aviation, and that's it. And so to me, I think all the things even what the IPOB members are saying is true. Now, actually, something has to be done. Actually, now we are seeing a report that is alleging. I think I saw it from Boss and then other channels that President Muhammad Buhari and then former governor of yes, that they alone can explain what a Bible outfit try to achieve in a way that destabilize the nation. And any president that is the president of a whole, not president of a part, will look at the unfolding realities in the Southeast and say, no, these people, we have not been able to move them to the former sectors of the economy. Now listen, they have not moved our people to the former sectors of the economy. The businesses we are doing, we need to do businesses on Monday. We need to stop these sit-at-home orders being actually already. Then Nnamdi Kanu is having a court appearance. Every government would have actually looked into that, but nobody's talking. It appears as if it's about your tent.
Okay, still on this, before we get to another thing, the governor of Anambra State has appealed to Mr. President for the release of Nnamdi Kanu and 1 or 2 other governors in the Southeast. But ever since the inception of this IPOB, has Omahi ever done anything to ensure that Nnamdi Kanu is released?
No.
And what do you think? Remember, in this place, he said they do not belong to Biafra and they are marginalized. Talking about the 5 states in the South.
Yes, and I did say that day that Biafra and Nigeria were creations of proclamation. They were creation. They do have creations of proclamation. There was no place it was gazetted that there would be Nigeria until Flora Shaw pronounced. You understand? In the 19th century, yes, in the 19th century, that these places shall now be Niger area.
Oh, yeah.
Then Biafra itself actually preceded. The proclamation of Biafra came from the Portuguese in the 15th century. It even came before Nigeria was proclaimed. And then we used to have the Bite of Biafra, which later became I think the Bite of Benin now. It became the Gulf of Guinea and all that. You see, the place known as Ebonyi State and some other places, we are in that Biafra as proclaimed by the Portuguese. And unfortunately, let us even say we are not going with that. During that war, when Ojukwu declared, when he said, having mandated me to proclaim on your behalf and in your name that Eastern region now be a sovereign independent state, aware that you have your rights, inalienable rights, and cannot be marginalized in any economic or any political association. Now, therefore, I, Lieutenant Colonel Chukwemeka Odumegwu, do hereby proclaim that the territory is known and called Eastern region, together with our continental shelf and territorial waters, shall henceforth be known and called Biafra, the Republic of Biafra. Now, that proclamation, when it existed, also included the place known as Ebony. Now, when the war was actually over, by 12th January and 15th of January 1970, we became Nigeria. The short-lived republic ceased to exist. Biafra committed to an instrument signed by Philip Effiong that said, we accept the existing arrangement of the Nigerian state and therefore ceases to exist. We went back there. Now listen, coming out now to say you are not Biafra, to me is living in self-denial. You see, I cannot deny my history, that my fathers fought a war they believed was a war of liberation, when other people from my own extraction of the country were being killed, hounded and haunted, being killed in the north. So we have to reconcile this history, and to me that is that's grandstanding. When he went there to talk about it, saying that the people were being marginalized by other Igbos. We said, wasn't Akanejam from Ebonyi State? Ogbonnayon, who was the first governor here. We have even, I think, Okoro vote for Jesus. These are Ebonyi people. So I do not know that marginalization.
All right, away from that, all the 20 local government chairmen in Ogun State on Tuesday night besieged the office of the governor, of the state governor, Dapo Abiodun, to ask for his forgiveness on behalf of one of the chairmen of Ijebu East local government, that is Wale Adebayo, who accused the governor of withholding local government allocations. The governor had frowned at that accusation and then, as alleged, and then decided maybe to deal with the local government one after the other, and they were in his house. Now, in retrospect of what we discussed yesterday concerning the same local government, as it affects Abia State, our own state here, and the same thing is also happening in some other places. And why must it always be like this? So that the local government will never at any time be autonomous. Is that what that means?
That is what it means. We no longer need to speak more in English in this matter. That is what it means. It means that seated upon the local government, 774 co-equal governments at that year are the 36 states.
And even a local government chairman cannot voice out.
Now, a local government chairman said, you are sitting on our patrimony because of a nebulous insertion in the constitution that said section 161, I think either section 161 or section 162, that said that there should be joint accounts to be taken care of or administered by the states. They had actually leveraged that to impoverish people at the grassroots. And that was why when we talked about that palliative issue, we said in a country where things are normal, the rightful authority tier of government to talk about palliative should be the local government, not the federal government. Yeah. Federal government should be itself with wars, with foreign policy, with currency, with other things, even customs, not to talk about how to give people handouts. You understand? Now, what is happening here is happening virtually everywhere. But I want to also commend you and the producers, the crew, for bringing this up. I love the fact that we discussed this and it is happening. It is a shameful thing that 20, anyway, who knows whether how they even came. We now have structures and systems where if you're not in the party, you cannot win election at the local government level. If you're not in the party being controlled by the states or by the state government, you cannot win it. Now, when this man voiced out this thing, instead of others to see whether they can actually verify that allegation or to even say we are having a system where we are not financially autonomous, or we are having a system where we are not even politically autonomous, or we are politically autonomous but by virtue of the constitution not financially autonomous, they consider themselves as a band of intercessors to go and intercede, yes, to go and pray the governor to temper, yes, to even forgive. It's laughable what democracy has become. But the constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is as clear as day that there shall be a third tier of government. And the subsequent provision of the constitution say that elections to be held thereto must be in accordance with democratic principles. But in those councils, you have caretaker committee. You have a tentative chairman they will call transition chairman. You also have interim chairman, whatever name so called, howsoever described. I think it's a nation of illegality. And this nation, we must begin to make this debate, this argument, that for us to get democracy, water down to the grassroots, water down to the local people, it is when you empower the local government. Because at that local level, the chairman represents what the governor represents at the state level, and what the president represents at the federal level. The councillors represent what the legislators, what the senators and House of Reps members represent at the federal level, and what the lawmakers in the House of Assembly represent at the state level, and then the supervisors represent what the minister represent at the federal level, and what the commissioners represent at the state level. It's unfortunate.
Very, very unfortunate, if I may borrow your word. But then, looking at this, I don't think that one of the major reasons for this is as a result of greed. What is the big deal in making the local government stand and look for themselves?
Yeah,
take care of the markets and so on.
It is greed. When I hear it in the news, even in United States, that local government workers are saying that the governor has not paid them. They are not state workers.
They are not.
You see what I'm saying now? Let us draw that line. They are not state workers. The local government should be financially autonomous to pay them. And that was why I said they must, in fact, let me even be mild or even simple. You see, association for fraternizing amongst some persons, in fact, for handshake, to me, I don't know, the Nigerian Governors Forum, NGF. When President Muhammad Buhari issued an order wanting the local government to be autonomous, saying that the governors will take the allocation from the local government, urged the chairman to come and sign, and the chairman will forfeit 50%, over a half of the whole money, and the governors will go with this money. And these are governors who receive billions in the name of security votes. These are governors who receive their salaries even before other workers in the states receive their own salaries. Yet they still have eyes in what is happening at the local government. Governors today want to control the markets. Governors today want to control the association of landlords. They want to control the association of landlords. Governors today want to control Omata. They want to control Omata. They want to control everything. And it's unfortunate. And when this is being done, the local government begins to shrink. And let me explain this. It is the local government that, if we are a true democracy, it is the local government that can generate population easier than any other government. And I'll tell you why. They name the streets, listen very well, they name the streets, and they number the streets too. So naming of the streets, numbering of the streets reside with the local government. These are functions domiciled with the local government. It means they know the number of houses, and they can easily do what? Approach to know the number of persons living there.
All right, before we call it a day, let us just look at this one final thing. The Southeast Zone is under search by soldiers and police. Road users in the Southeast region, particularly passengers, have cried out over the ugly scenes they experience on some roads in the zone, especially in checkpoints manned by soldiers. They are lamenting on the level of humiliation, intimidation, and harassment they are subjected to in most of the roads in the region. You already noticed from moving from Bata here.
Yes.
And you'll also notice that in fact in almost all the checkpoints and so on, you don't see even the soldiers, but they have some of these towns.
You see them. They are there. Okay. They have sandbags. Sandbags they use for shield, and they also have encampments.
And
no
they
longer.
have increased
It is no longer checkpoint. It is now encampment. Let us call it what it is. Checkpoints don't have camps. They have encampments where you have something like a tent. They now live there with a few change of clothes. They even eat there. They live there. They stay there till daybreak. They are no longer even in the barracks. So some of them will deploy those to stand there in the morning. And in Osisioma here, and then what was the name of this toll gate? This community now, a popular community.
Is the one in Isialangwa?
Where we used to have the toll gate now, there's a community there. A popular junction. Umweka. Okay. Yeah. And I'm saying it is my personal view, and it is happening, and I know others are seeing this. They are now using civil populace to collect tips from the drivers. The same thing happens if you are going across, if you are going the boundary between Abia and Owerenta. If you are crossing the Imo River, that bridge, they are there using civilians to receive bribe. We are under siege. The other time I took excuse from here to be in Abuja. You were aware. From Abuja, I went to Kaduna, the NDA. My brother, the axis, the Kaduna Abuja Expressway, that road, you understand? That was actually terrorized last 2 years and last 3 years. That became axis of terror. I couldn't see military presence. What you see is little encampment, but they will not be on the road. But here, coming down to Enugu, I saw more than 40 checkpoints. And I'm being conservative.
Hello. What's happening to them?
And I'm being conservative. So I saw more than 40 of those checkpoints where they are, and then tell me, the other honorable Abanyam asked the question that they said, where an investor is coming in, and you are seeing such a thing, will you invest? During the 2009 Under-17 World Cup in Abuja, the contingent, the Spanish team, the children Under-17, they came and saw gun-toting soldiers. They asked whether there was war. They said no, some of them developed trauma. And this is the kind of country we operate. Yet, the axis of war are not even being protected. Where you have war, the corridors, the Boko Haram, where the news, how over 500 of them we are even somewhere. They do not take war to where war is needed. Unfortunately, the South is, and I keep saying it, is under siege. Even before the IPOB issue began, even before the MNA killings of IPOB members that bettered the formation or that bettered the ESN, you understand? We have, in fact, in most cases, you see that security agencies celebrate their transfer to this place.
Yes.
Because they are here to do or to exploit our city, our people, other Nigerians who are from this part of the country, and it's unfortunate.
Let's see if this one can work. Hello. Hello. Yeah, this is Living TV.
Hello.
Hello, go ahead. Hello. Yes, go ahead. I don't know his network. Okay. Well, that is the march we are going to take today. You've had it all, and then I'm sure our analyst has done justice to most of these topics today. And those of you out there, I know the network will not allow you to make your contributions or maybe ask questions, but don't forget that Friday is another day. We're going to have our issues of the moment on Friday. So you keep a date with us then, and then Tuesday again, and also Wednesday, we'll also be having Nigeria Today. Keep a date with us. We make sure we bring you topical issues of interest, and that will also help you, not just educating you, but also entertaining and informing you. That's what we do here. All right, today, comrade, what's the final take before we leave the scene?
Okay, I will begin. I will just maybe one sentence for each of the topics. I think AU, ECOWAS, and other communities, other blocks in Africa should look inward. AU has what it calls the charter, the 2007 charter. Now see the charter's name on democracy, governance, and election. Democracy, election, and governance. What is its position to deepen democracy? Through free, fair elections. It must observe and then say it is fine, and then ensure that there is robust governance in the region. So it should do more than just sit idly and wait for the West to condemn a coup and now try to make war, or even try to boycott or even sanction regimes, unpopular juntas, you understand? We don't welcome coup, but ECOWAS, AU, CENSAD, all of them, AMU, they should look inward and see what they can do. Then, the local government here, states should, as a matter of urgency, it's in the constitution, allow these local governments to exist as the third tier. Because if you are going to address poverty, if you are going to fight poverty, the councillor represents the people. You understand? Unlike the governor, you cannot see the governor's wife in the market, but you can see the councillor's wife in the market.
Exactly.
allow people in the grassroots to have a sense of belonging, and that is the way you can actually address issues like palliative and the rest of them. Then the issue of Nnamdi Kanu, court has ruled that this man has done nothing. There had been a finding by the UN, a UN-led team or group. What is the federal government still waiting to bring about peace in this region by releasing him? It's left for them, but we can only advise and we can only make comments. Then finally, before I go, I think my advice to Governor Oti would be, please hurry up and make sure we have election at the grassroots level to deepen and entrench democracy here. Otherwise, you are not different from others. We wish you well, we want you to succeed, and that belongs to all of us. Thank you.
All right, that's the much we're going to take for today. I like the advice Comrade had given to our wonderful and amiable governor. Do everything you can within your reach to ensure that there is an election at the grassroots. That is a local government election, and that is the only way you can deepen democracy. And when people are talking about palliatives and so on, it's supposed to go to the local governments, and that is the only way they can get down to the people, because these are people who are closer to the villagers and so on. Just like the example is cited here, we may not see the governor's wife in the market, but the wife of the councillors are always there. So that is enough. I think that's a wonderful advice to our government and to our governor. All right, thank you, wonderful viewers. Thank you for being part of this program today. And Comrade Nnamdi Lekwachi, we are very proud of you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm proud of you. Keep doing the good work. Thank you, viewers. Goodbye.
All right, and this is your command, Chinedum Adiele. Sign up. Keep watching, living. Keep watching, living TV. Hello. Hello. Can you be the luckiest person? All right. Bye for now. Until some other time, we'll take your calls. I think what we're going to do next time, we're going to put our phone line right from the time we get started so that you can call. Thank you for being there. For those of you who miss your calls, we'll be here on Friday again. We'll be here on Tuesday and Wednesday. Keep it there with us. Bye for now.